Okay, so let's look back a little previous paragraph before we said um uh it says לעניין דין עונשין, אחרי שאינו יכול להתחייב, חירש cannot become חייב, שבן ישראל חי בהם רק אם יגיע לגיל עונשין, והחירש כיוון שלא לא יגיע לגיל עונשין, חי עונשין בגלל חירושותו, because he's deaf, יהיה אסור משם מזיז בני נוח משעה שהוא בן דס. He'll be going also משם מזיז בני נוח, because that has to do with das. But לא יגיע לו מחיר בעונשין, but he's never going to reach the status of עונשין. Because that's הנחה מחודשת בדין חירש, אף שהוא ben das gamor, even though he's a ben das and it can become chayiv in mitzvahs of a ben noach, ain't no chayiv mitzvahs. He's not required to do mitzvahs, and mitzvahs of the Torah, obviously. Rav Auerbach, the says is dvarav al shubaso shel tzemach tzedek hakarmon. So the as he says in the footnotes, not to be confused with tzemach tzedek the Lubavitcher. This he was born approximately year 1600 as the rabbi of Nikolsburg and a student of the Bach, and he learned with the Taz and the Magina Shlomo, who was the Pnei Yeshua's grandfather. Okay, so so this Tzemach Tzedek Hakadmon says in response to the question of a Chacham, Shebiksha Duchbas Achoso, whose niece wanted Linasa the Cheresh, wanted to marry a deaf. Again, we have to assume it's a deaf mute. Where it was obvious that he understood things as any individual did. Baki b'tfilos, he was conversant with tfilos. Notes Adam, he would conduct commercial activities with human beings. Yodech domesh shmo, he knew how to sign his name. That his status would be the same as a mute person. So you can write on paper the words Harem Kudesh. Leave Yarkinas Rosho, and he'll incline his head. Lo Shu Mevin Heteves Ligma Husta Kiddushin, to show that he understands well the character of Kiddushin. Tzemach Tzedek Kadmo Misaper Shagam Hu Makir Chayat Cheresh. He also knows a tailor who is deaf. Hamevin Hete Betim Maton, who's a very adept at commercial activities. Overnight kilo regil misklerimo, and the people in the community are accustomed to interact with him commercially. Mikrim shel dvarim b'mamonos bino lebinom. There is a dispute, a monetary matters between the tailor and other people. In buying to the basin, come to the basin, mevarim mobra. They clarify with him with hints, I guess some sign language, some sort. Esanyon, the matter. Uposkim as dino kachodam. They paskin for him like they paskin for any person. Come, nevertheless. Shebikesh liso yesho, when he wanted to get married, kabu achachom sheilech kubayim echem bnei mishpachto. They the members of the house, the chachamim determined they should go to the chuppah with one of the members of his family. Hamevin Rizam Zav understands his Stein language. Baloyas Bilas Musa Kedushin. That person should explain to him the concept of Kedushin. And the Chere should extend the ring to his wife and marry her. You can't write on a piece of paper at Mukudeshesli. Deaf and deaf. It's a fascinating idea. We don't even let him write down Harei Mukudeshli. People should not think that the Kiddush is the Raisa. Because even the Kiddush of a intelligent deaf person, Einam is not Kiddush in the Raisa. Okay? Rav Auerbach said, so we're going to be a main Pisco Shah Tzemach Tzedek HaKadmon. That still is operative today. Rav Tzamir Shamnam Ein Lavi Madua Imaser Chirish Klum. This is unintelligible. Why should it be this way? She'ein Lomar Mishu Charipi Oser. You can't say somebody who's very sharp. Mocheshim Rabbi Shabagash, like many deaf people that he met. Shuchalil Begeder Shoita, that he's Pastor Shalom considered Shoita. Kosh Levi Madu Patrol So Chazam Mitzvos. So it's very difficult to understand why Chazal said the Mitzvos. Ach Miyaru Mabia Histagus. Immediately he notes um, his
Hesitancy.
what?
Hesitancy.
Hesitancy. Okay, fair enough. So it came much. No, it's more than hesitancy. His no, it's not just hesitancy. His uh,
Holding back.
holding back his difference, his it's a Google Translate. How to translate histagut?
Reservations.
Oh, good word. Okay. No, but it's more strong than reservations, I think. Did you look it up?
No.
Let's see. Qualification. Disclaimer. 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 Who might be a Histagut is disclaimer Omer Shekema Shepasku Chacham Kain says the passes away near Shilu Brov Chachmosam. Evidently they knew with their great sagacity, so we don't take into account his deeds. Kami near Shu Zarizim Mulach, we see that he is diligent and salty. In other words, it's very smart. And everything he does seems like the same thing like be done by a person who is can hear and talk. A ramet sebichu was so divrei maram shik. That's shava pisha dina ksiva kadina dibor. Normally say somebody writes something down, it's like speaking, although not in everything, of course, not testimony and stuff like that. So I'm not sure why the Maram Shik felt compelled to make a distinction. It's obviously a distinction. But so he says, Ein okay mishal cheresh. This you can't. The Maram Shik has this chiddush, which again I don't know why he has come on to, that you don't say this by somebody who's born deaf mute. It's only like on the same level as jumping up and down and alluding with sign language and such like. Rab maybe it's Maram Shik. He brings down the chiddush of the Maram Shik. Everything that deaf mute does, is on account of what he's taught from others. He's just imitating. You can't see what he's doing as independent activities. Rav Auerbach is he had grave difficulty accepting this. It's likely that that was an account of what he saw by deaf people that he met. The same is true with and he concludes it's true with a determination. So this is a fascinating psak. So we know that some people who are deaf can produce sounds which
Hmm.
we can't understand, but some people can understand, right?
Hmm.
So if other people understand his intent, even if the way he moves his lips is different than the normal speech of a human being, you can understand, see him as somebody who is normal in all manners, which is a tremendous chiddush.
Yeah.
This is he says, if only people who are in constant daily contact with him. So the Acherim here defines not as people who are in constant daily contact with him.
Hmm.
The people who are only daily constant contact with him, understand his intent, as a result of the sounds which he makes. Those who are not accustomed to him, they don't understand the movement of his lips. And the ramification, the intent of the voices, the sounds which he makes. It's not clear that he's considered as if he's speaking. Okay, so I have a koshi shara ragon Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal mitok regishuso hagdola mitzukososh koel. The show koshwell. Even though Reb Shlomo Zalman saw the difficulty as a result of his great sensitivity to the crisis, which anybody who would ask him a question faces. I'm not sure I translated it right. In other words, Reb Shlomo Zalman was very sensitive to people asking questions, and he felt their pain. And the sense which comes out of his words, there would be room to relate to the deaf people say that we know with clarity that there's no difference in their understanding and in their intellectual capacity from other people. Lo matzah harav makom listosim misoros hapsika he had found no room to deviate from the tradition of the psak, which is in effect, which is customary. Mina Talmud from the time of the Gemara, Vagdali Poskim until the great Poskim Bar day, by Meshivim and the people who write the responsa. She could not deviate from the accepted psak in terms of a cheresh, and since that's Rav Shlomo Zalman, so we, meaning me, give great credence to what he says and assume that that would be the benchmark psak
Hmm.
for to set a standard. Now I assume we'll see other interpretations. Okay. Had the true same Shadmor Mitzans V'Rav reveals real Husayim, which of course the I don't know which are the Admor Mitzans always say about the first the Admor Mitzans the Divrei Chaim. So these are much earlier than Rav Shlomo Zalman. So evidently we're going back now in history. Haderech Shabo Holech Bo Rav Oyer Bar Satzab Psikosob Min Zem Mishakefetz Kamuvon reflects obviously a Masorah's Psika Aruka, a long Masorah of Psak. Shev Shalavi Odumos Damos Zem Mikama Kama Chulos. So we evidence from similar chulos. Kan he brings down Shevet Sefer, Melechus Keresh, Shu Meshiv. Okay, okay. So, kind of doing Shu Mesosha more Mitzans, Baal Divrei Chaim. That was the first sons of Rav. Shenichtava b'Shas Taf Reish Yutes, 1959. Hashal Yarav Lebush Yuda Lebush Barach, Rabashir Tupla, Ungaria, Baal Melechus Keresh. Evidently wrote a book about Chereshim. I guess we'll find out more about later on. באוסם היומין יספתחו בשני זרמים אורתודוקסיים עיקריים בהונגריה. So there were two main Orthodox trends in Hungary. Now in Hungary there were the Neo-Logan. The Neo-Logan they would consider them kind of conservadox. So they're off the charts. We're not taking into account. You know, the Rouhani Street Synagogue, largest synagogue in the world. I think it's at some point. I don't know if it is today but it was the beautiful preserved shul in Budapest. Was the Neolog shul, and it has an organ, even though they sat separately, but it has an organ. So it was a Neologan were conservadox. I think they're largely many of them Shomer Shabbos, but they're on the questionable. So we don't take them into account. So then there on the actually there's the seminary which existed throughout the Cold War in Hungary, in Europe, in Budapest. The only rabbinical seminary behind the Iron Curtain, which still exists today, is a Neolog seminary. So it's firmer than the conservative, but it's not Orthodox. Okay. After the introduction, so there are two. There were the ultra Orthodox and the non-Orthodox, so to speak. Although it doesn't quite divide that way, since it's Hungary in the 1800s. But so one of them, Echos Kashur, L'Kvutzas Chachamim, Mibeis Shel Shel Chasim Sefer, Gemara Pil Lichtenstein, Moshe Shiklit said Sof Shel Chasim Sefer, Rosh Baal Ksav Sefer. Those were the strictly Orthodox, the Charedim, right? Ver Rosh Amad Reb Azriel Hildesheimer, which was the more modern Orthodox. Shebro Shana Shnas Tov Rishav, Huchta Karabba Shel Ir Eisenstadt. He was the rabbi of Eisenstadt. Sheisachel Mina Ezor Austro-Hungary. They were part of the Austro-Hungarian part of Hungary, which was the other part later. The other parts, I think, mostly later today are in Ukraine. The Hungarian Ukraine, maybe Romania, with the parts of Hungary which were the less progressive. Even though Pressburg, Bratislava, right, is today in Slovakia, and that's where Chasim Sofer was, and that would be considered to be, they're divided in Hungary to Oberland and Unterland, and Pressburg is Oberland, and those other places were Unterland, but nevertheless, Chasim Sofer was in Pressburg, and his that became pretty staunchly Unterlandish. So the Vayabo Magamos Psuchos Yoser Balocha. So the Rabbi Zil Hildesheimer section was more open, and I guess Jacob Katz, famous Jewish historian, must have written a great deal about this. Okay. Bulgaria's Bakalgan. Oh, he explains it. I didn't think he was going to speak about it. But it was really going off on a tangent here. Bulgaria's Bakalgan Kutsash Lishish Manigim. The third leadership Kimos is Zermaniologi. She bikesh l'shanosis miyam mivnei want to change the structure of Esdeir Makdasim and the orders of the kilos, famosos tatim, and the religious institutions, b'tzura marchika lechas, in a very significant way. Kosa b'kvos emancipatia, this all has to do with emancipation. Shezachlo Yehudei Hungary Machtzis Hashnir Shalom Et Yutes, which the Hungarians got. Both in TV in a natural way, has the religious factions were divided up in halachic matters, in which there was a demand for change. Such as for the deaf person who learned and achieved a high intellectual level in a school for deaf. ואין לבטל את האפשרות שמצאתי המושגים שיצאו לאור באותה תקופה הושפעו מן הרצון שלא לחזק הסוגים הנאולוגיים. Okay, I don't know why he says this, but he says we cannot negate the possibility that some of the psukim which came out of that period were influenced by the desire not to strengthen the neolog circles. Which wanted to uproot altogether. As the Dracula Masoratim Shel Hazalem Yeshan want to uproot the order of the traditional kilos of the old Orthodox order. Which would mean evidently they're saying that some of the psukim might be reactionary.
Okay.
Okay. Mishnah Tamap, you're saying 1886. I think this is last. I think he died that year. Pisam Rava Hilda Simons and Sam Marbik Saleh Yiddish Pressa. I reckon Maria Bikurim Shrabanim that they say Kashim. By that time he was in Berlin. He was not in Eisenstadt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He was where he had founded, of course, this Hilda Simons Seminary. So they visited schools for the deaf, Shini's Barabim, which is clarified that. Rabbanim to the rabbis shalomdu bahem shacharshim shalom bahem that the deaf people learned there lomdu biskilu they learned and they achieved intelligence and sheim yidam mishar beyadim they're no different than any other people only that they lack the capacity to hear uvagum gum lashon bilbad so they stuttered when they spoke. Okay, for it's appropriate to note say that from the 16th century. So already is a couple of hundred years into that trend.
Okay. What time do you have to break for mincha?
I think I have to break in 2 minutes. Let's see if we can do this footnote. These are people from the monks. Normal teachers as well. In the 18th century, the approach to education expanded. Charles Michel de Laffa. Adam Rishon was the first person Sheni and Atzelis Chusha who wanted to exploit the vision as an exchange as a stand-in for hearing. He developed a visual alphabet that by moving the fingers of the hands, move the hands, you reach concepts which are spelled out. Shita Mufutaus, you say Shita Sosha Germani Heineke. She Safatech Lashon Dibur Tivis. He tried to develop a natural means of speech. Toch Shimushim and Soim Chazitim Oralim using visual and oral means.
Oral. A-U-R-A-L.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to use them though because they're deaf. They got Fatech Lashon Dibur to make a language of speech. That somehow he, I guess, maybe actually makes sounds, which is similar to natural language. And thus achieve societal, what's the word?
Or deaf mute.
No, shikum is rehabilitation.
Yeah.
For Cheresh Shlem. I ain't talking about Ivrit, Erech Kashut Imut. Okay, so we'll come back this next time, but evidently we're talking about here, there's already people who can't communicate. So it's different than somebody can't communicate. Well, and we'll have to speak about it and see what happens. Okay, very good. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Shkoyach.
Okay,
Right.
take care.
Take it easy. Bye.